Hello, everyone. This is Nanette Kennedy and Dee Meyer with this month's Spirituality in Action program. And we are actually going to be interviewing Dee today. And I'm going to start off by reading something to get everybody centered into the place of what we will be sharing with you today. Recently, we just had Global Oneness Day, as many of you will know. And during the Transformational Entertainment panel of the Telesummit, Don Jose Miguel said, "Story is very important. If you have a negative story, then your creation is going to be negative. But if you have a positive story and your creation is positive, this is a beautiful way to express from the heart because this is what we want to create." I so agree with what Don Jose Miguel says because stories are how we connect at the heart level. And telling stories of real lives and real situations and oneness reveals oneness in concrete and tangible ways. Just this past September, the 12th actually, one of Humanity's team key leaders, Dee Meyer, who is also the recruiter coordinator and the Humanities team university coordinator, watched as her home that she had lived in with her daughter slide into the Jamestown Creek during the extreme Colorado floods. The house filled with every item they owned, from toothbrushes to the television, from dishes to the refrigerator, from beds to all their clothing, and all those irreplaceables that we all take for granted, such as family heirlooms and photos, paintings and gifts, which hold tremendous sentimental value, washed down the canyon. And nothing but the broken roof remained on a muddied and destroyed piece of the property. That day, right after this happened, Dee telephoned me and shared with me that she just witnessed the disappearance of her home due to the flooding. And I could tell Dee was in shock and horror, as anyone would be, because in a matter of a few short minutes, everything of hers was gone. Her voice had a steady quality, yet a slight shaky quality that kind of spoke volumes about how she just realized her life had just changed dramatically. Within seconds of hanging up the phone with Dee, I called Steve Farrell, the Worldwide Coordinating Director of Humanities Team, and explained what was going on. Together, we contacted other key leaders and started a plan to get Dee and her daughter back on their feet. In less than a day, Melissa Pori, who's our CEO, set up a website page to raise money for Dee. And Carrie Beach, who is our IT coordinator, started looking for temporary housing for Dee halfway across the United States in North Carolina. He was looking via the internet and phone for homes for Dee here in Colorado. The next thing Steve and I did was wrote this letter together about our dear friend and coworker, and we asked for financial assistance. The oneness, caring, and compassion abounded because teammates from around the globe came through in less than 2 weeks and raised $35,000 for Dee and her family. And on top of financial contributions, many, many people have sent clothing, books, furniture, dishes, and other items. As one might imagine, Dee and her daughter have suffered great losses, but Dee will tell you herself that she knows how lucky they are to have their lives. And I'd like to remember this verbatim, how Dee told me this, but she said it was not only the money that was, that she's very grateful for, but the act of people giving was what gave her hope. And Dee and her daughter are continuing to rebuild their lives, and I think that they both feel that the worst of this is behind them, while there are still some hills, but things seem to be coming back to normal. And I just want to say, Dee Meyer, that I'm sure we can both agree that what happened in the giving department was such an incredible display of oneness. So welcome.
Hi, Nanette. Thank you. Absolutely, I do agree that people opening their homes, their giving to such an extent, furniture and clothing, and just making sure that we landed on our feet. It has been amazing. We definitely are so very grateful, and we've grown. You know, you have to let go of everything and move through your fear and your doubt and, you know, step into the oneness and also learn to receive, which has been a real biggie for me and, well, also for Andy. It is, we've been in the United States, we're a proud people, and to accept the generosity of others is a little hard at first, but when you're in the state of everything gone, it is so needed and appreciated, and you grow as a person.
Well, I think that the growth is just going to be continuing from here till the end, because most people don't go through such a catastrophic event. And I want to hear a little bit about how you think you already being on a spiritual path, and I want to get to some other things specifically about what you've been through, but I want to go through some other things first. But how being on a path of oneness kept you from possibly, you know, falling off the edge?
Well, that's a great question, Annette. And I got to tell you, it's not that you don't fall off the edge. You hop back up after you fall. Because with challenges like this, you're going to be fearful. You're going to, you know, wonder, what on earth, why would God let this happen to me? I definitely went through all of that. But then you come back into your oneness where you see the generosity. You see the people lifting you up. You feel it. You know that God is with you, that this is just part of the path, that you accept what is here. You don't try to fight it. You accept it, and you try to be as present and grateful as possible at all times, rather than going into being fearful of the future or regretting the past, what you lost. You have to stay in the here and now.
That is such an incredibly good point. Or it's such a lesson in the now. We all have, you know, everyone has issues, and you and I and many other people have read numerous quotes and books and everything else about how important it is to stay in the now. And in a situation like this, I'm sure it was like a minute by minute, I got to stay in the now.
Absolutely. You know, Nina, I think it was on day 2, and I was definitely, the reality of the situation was hitting home, and I was so fearful, and I can't even remember what you said, but you had me laughing within, you know, a few minutes of our phone call, where I didn't think I could ever laugh again. What were we talking about? Do you remember?
Yes, I do remember, and I said to you, are you ready to have a little laugh? And you said, more than ready. And I said, you just painted the house. Now, you know, now it's gone. And you had been for weeks saying, you know, I'm working just a little bit on my house today, a little bit on my house today. And we were both able to laugh, which for me, you and I are also very good friends. And it was sort of like that release, because there had already been some tears and more to come, but it was an amazing moment to hear you laugh, even though you'd just been through this. And so I want to thank you for finding it funny, and because I would have felt, I would have felt silly if it had turned out otherwise.
Well, and you know, my house was on all kinds of news stations and photos and newspapers, so I was really pleased that trim looked so good.
you do crack me up. You continue to, because, there would have been nothing worse if that paint job had not happened. And you and I do kind of have a code with our friendship, too, that laughter is, like, number one. And if we're not laughing, we just like to laugh, so that's a good thing. And, I will say, yes, it is great medicine. And I will say, pretty much from that day forward, even on some of your toughest days, there were still some moments of laughter. And so that, I think, is something you can hold dear, and having a knowing way that you were still able to do that, and I think that's very important. I wanted to add something about your second day, because I think outside of the fact that your family was not in the home when it went down the river, for which you are very grateful, was it the following day? Was that when you took the helicopter?
Yeah, we were rescued by the Army helicopters. They brought in huge helicopters, and we each got to take a bag and one of our dogs, and we hopped on a helicopter, which the dogs weren't too happy about, and we were transported into Boulder Airport, and from there we went to Niwot High School, to a Red Cross station, and our dear friends Waldie and Kara Baumgart came and picked us up, and we stayed with them for over 2 weeks, and then found a house in Longmont. It was very cramped. It was a block off of a train track, so it was loud every hour on the hour, all night, all day, trains going through. So it was an adjustment from living in a quiet mountain town.
And I can attest to the train, because many times while we were talking, we'd have to go silent because you couldn't even hear each other. And I know that adjustment, first of all, you were in someone else's home for 2 weeks, and even under the best of circumstances, you don't ever feel relaxed when you're in someone else's home, completely. And I know you were grateful for them to open up their home.
Absolutely. Not only us, they had another family with them as well. They're just such very, very kind and dear people. Actually, they're the first people I met in Colorado. So they've just been really lifelong friends.
Well, and that right there is an incredible display of oneness, because I have brought people into my home not for the flood, but for other reasons, to stay with me till they could get back on their feet from different circumstances. And, I know that your friends had their heart wide open, and there's, sometimes people can't give you money or give you the thing, obviously they can't replace all your things, but when people open up their hearts and their arms, that's also kind of a stair-stepping to this recovery process.
Absolutely. It's that nurturing, that friendship, just having someone completely love and understand you, no matter if you're at your best or not. They can accept you for where you are at that moment in time.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there was a struggle between this very small place, which I did visit, and it is very small. There was a struggle trying to get you into a more permanent housing situation, because of you have 3 dog family members, and also the cost of living right inside Boulder is through the roof. It's very expensive, and there was lots of worry, but you really persevered on the hunt. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. It was a challenge living in the tiny space with 3 dogs, and looking for a new place was such a challenge. The cost of rent went up in a week, like $300 to $400, what it was before the flood. So it was shocking to see that in a matter of a day or two, the prices just jumped. And so really limited what we could afford. And also, because we have 3 dogs, a lot of apartments either don't allow pets or limited to 2. So it was a challenge. And it happened that a friend of a friend had a home that was for sale, and it's a beautiful home, and we are so grateful to be in it. She has offered it to us for rent at a price we could afford, and it's in our beloved mountain area, and it's safe, and we're just so grateful to have a beautiful space, a piano for my daughter, and it's just incredible.
Yeah, I remember, well, there's 2 things I want to mention that I remember. And so everybody knows, Dee and I really are best friends, and we just happen to have the added joy of being able to work together. And I live an hour north of where Dee lives in Colorado, and it was getting to be very apparent along this journey that Dee and I were missing each other, because normally we would get together once a week. And to not be with my friend for reasons of, for those of you who don't know, the floods were all over Colorado, in my area, her area, all the way down the Front Range. And it was impossible for me to get to where Dee was. And I was starting to feel like all I wanted to do was hug Dee and let her know. Obviously, she knew I was there for her, but I just wanted to be with her. And it was, I'm thinking, 4 weeks before we were able to have that hug. And I don't even know if I've mentioned this to you, Dee, but when I pulled up in front of that little teeny tiny house, you were sitting on the steps, and you got up and practically ran to my car. And that embrace was beautiful. And, you know, when you are good friends with people, and you know that, just because I know how you are, and it was not easy for you to receive a lot of things from people, but really that moment was, I just needed to see you, and I needed to know, you know, by looking at you, that everything was going to be okay. And I knew when you ran up to me that, you know, everything was going to be okay. And with the incredible generosity from people, that, and you didn't even know half of this was going on because you were busy trying to put your life back together, and still are. But I had people calling me, and I was making new friends in the process, because they had, you know, bed sheets and clothes and furniture and all these different items that they were, you know, where do I take it? How can I get it to you? And people just literally came out of the woodwork to help you keep propped up. And I know, because I talk to you every day, that you're very, very grateful. But I thought maybe you might want to talk a little bit about how this was for you as a mother to a teenage daughter for her first year of high school having this experience.
Oh, my goodness. Well, this is ongoing, and it is difficult, you know, to lose everything and to have to have your child go through this pain. And I'm telling you, she watched everything she owned being swept down the river. And, you know, we had just purchased all of her new school clothes and all of her books and all of her equipment for school. It's been really hard. And, you know, for Andy, it's so challenging because she had the things that she loved and she was excited about. And once you go through losing everything, you're in shock, and you don't necessarily want to go shopping and replace it all right away. It's just you're almost not able to. So having people show up and send us beautiful clothing and, helping us out to make us feel better about where we are in life, it was truly amazing. We've had gift cards given, and so I took Andy shopping, and she did get the new clothes, and she does love them, and she's excited about what she has to wear. So it's been a long process, and now it just continues. We've been given all kinds of gifts, new beds. I'm going to go pick one up this afternoon for Andy. Excuse the phone for just a minute. Also, the Relief Exchange here in Boulder, and they have given us all kinds of beautiful clothing, dishes, bedding. The list goes on and on. Sarah, who runs the Relief Exchange, just yesterday gave Andy a gift card to Kohl's that was donated, and she's just been such a huge, huge help. There's so many people, Tanya Brody collecting beautiful clothing for us, and who else was helping with that, Nanette?
Oh, you got me on the spot. It's somebody I met, just through a brief email. But it was a friend of hers that did help, and she was very instrumental in helping you get the things here because Tanya doesn't even live in the state.
Yeah, and we still have furniture to pick up, and life is just really settling down for us. We have a beautiful space to live in, at least for the next 6 months until the house goes back on the market. But we have a period of rest where we're not being forced to move again. We moved 3 times in a matter of 6 weeks. I mean, it's hard to move anyway, but to move under these circumstances, oh my goodness. So this has just really been an amazing opportunity to settle in and have a breather.
Well, one of the things I wanted to add, I'm sorry to interrupt, one of the things I wanted to, I have 2 more questions. I have a statement and then 2 questions. I knew from the moment this happened, and I certainly didn't say this right away because it wouldn't have been the right timing, and we were on a phone call with another friend of ours, Sean Gardner from the United Kingdom, and Simon Rowe, who said, great things are going to open for you that would have never otherwise opened. And, you're not through the whole process yet, and certainly it'll be a while before that, you feel completely settled. But one of my questions to you is, this is when you said you didn't even want to go shopping. It really reminds me of a grief process. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely, yeah. It is a grief process. At first, you're in denial. This just is a dream. Everything seems surreal, and there are moments where it still seems surreal. Let me tell you, it's ongoing. And there are moments where you remember something that you treasured. It just pops up, and then you feel the grief for what's gone. So it's ongoing, and staying centered and present in the moment allows you to quickly process, so that you don't stay in depression or anger or any of the other steps of grief. It has been really an opportunity to grow as a person, and it is an amazing opportunity for my daughter, Andy, though at the moment she doesn't see it. Right now it's still hard, and she is having trouble seeing the flood and the loss of everything as a gift. But I know there will come a time when she does, because it has been.
Well, and that you're leading me right into my next question too, which is, and it may be too early to go into a lot of detail, but what have you? I know you've thought about this. What is it? How has it changed you with placing so much value on things?
Well, obviously things are very temporary, and the value that truly is eye-opening is the value of your friendships and your community, and recognizing that time is one thing that you don't get back. So being a workaholic and not paying attention to your family and loved ones as much as you should, or your friendships, not giving them the time that they deserve. To me, this was just a huge lesson. Well, as you know, Nanette, we're both very conscientious workers. We are, some people would call us workaholics, and this has been eye-opening for me. There's just got to be balance in life. And part of that balance is giving relationships the time they deserve, all of them, friendships, your community. And community is not just where you live. Community is so obviously humanity's team for me. My community is enormous, and that just deserves time and attention, those friendships, be it on Facebook or friends that you've met traveling to the meetings, all of these people that have been important, that have touched your heart. You need to let them know. You need to pay attention to the people that are there for you.
That's really interesting, because through this experience, vicariously, I realized the workaholic thing. I mean, we've both known it. It's not any new surprise.
Right.
But I really did notice, because Steve had to really pick up a big part of the load. Melissa, Carrie, Todd, these are all key leaders in Humanity's team. There was no discussion of how are we going to do this, because we knew you were not going to be in the picture for a while. It was everybody just kind of got in a huddle and said, I'll take this part, I'll take that part. And the amazing thing, because everyone knew I was your person at that time, hours in a day, and that I was there for you, and running your Facebook page and keeping your friends up to date, and answering emails for you. And it was a job, but you know what? Because I'm like you with this workaholic thing, and everybody kind of took your work, and they took a lot of my work, because they knew that I was really needed in this different area. And when you're surrounded by people that understand oneness, you don't have to go into the details. Your whole story is such a representation of oneness. And when my part of my job was taken away from me, that's where I had to wake up, because I was thinking, oh my gosh, I feel very good about the work I do with Humanity's team. Don't misunderstand me, but there was something very powerful in helping me to be strong for you by being able to do those things. And anybody who's ever done anything for anyone knows that there's that gift for yourself. And so I really definitely agree with this eye-opening moment about being too much of a workaholic.
And
now,
there's another, real quick, I want to just mention that part of the new home is I don't have internet at home, so it really limits how much I can work. And so I now work, 7 hours a day, and out of the office, and when I'm home and present. And that has been a big change.
Major. Don't I know it? Because a lot of our communication is through Skype messaging all day long. But you know what? It's a healthy change, and I think that even when you do get your internet, I think you're going to be better about saying, okay, the 5 o'clock bell is here, and now it's time for me to be present with my family. And it's actually put me into that zone. For what reason, I don't know, but right around 5:30, I've been pretty good about doing it. So thank you for the lesson.
Thank you.
Hard way to get it, but we got it. Yeah, we hear you, God.
We're listening.
Yep, we're listening. We got the message. One other thing I just want to mention real quick before I ask you if you've got any closing comments is that if anybody listening would like to contribute to Dee's fund, you can go to www.humanitiesteam.org and go to the donate button, and you can put Dee's name in. As there's a little section you can fill out if you want it to go to Dee specifically, because I know that, and anybody who has a home and all the things in it knows that $35,000 goes away quite quickly. And I should add that you have been working up until the flood, like 80 hours a week, and we both receive a very small stipend for the work we do. And so I know that the money, while you're so grateful for what you have already received, there's still some things that you need to obtain. So if anybody would like to donate, you again go to the humanitiesteam.org website, and you can donate there. So do you have any parting comments on your appreciation of your path and oneness and this situation that you've just gone through?
Yeah, I sure do. I am so grateful to be on this path, and I am so grateful for my brothers, sisters, friends, colleagues that I work with that have lifted me up through this process. I would not be here in the state I'm in if it hadn't been for you and Steve and Carrie, Melissa, Angie, Todd, all these people that, I'm sorry, I'm probably not mentioning everybody I should, that have been here, that are helping me, that are lifting me up. I'm so truly grateful. And for all of you who have sent in donations, sent in prayers that are keeping us up, we are grateful. And so pleased to be a part of this Humanities Team community. Thank you.
Well, it was a wonderful conversation, Dee, and I think we can definitely agree that when you are in a community that really walks the walk, and none of us are perfect, but when you are surrounded by people who move in knee-jerk positive ways, without thought, without thinking, I mean, it was amazing, the letters, the prayers, and I'm glad you mentioned the prayers because we actually received several beautiful letters, and people were writing and saying, I'm sorry I can't afford, but please know that you and your daughter are in my prayers.
Yeah.
And, one day we sat on the phone and I read them to you because I pick up the mail from the HT email or snail mail box, post office box, and I couldn't even get through some of them without crying. They were so beautifully written. So I want to say ditto on that. All right.
I'd also like to thank Chaplain Dan Reagan, who was a mentor during this hard time that I could turn to, and asking the hard questions. And typically he would just ask the questions back and let my heart open. But I am grateful. So love you, Chaplain Dan. Thank you.
All righty. Well, thank you, Dee, for your time. And I know that things are only going to get better from here. And we will see everybody in a couple of weeks with our next interview. And have a good day. You bet. Thank you, Dee.
Bye.
Bye.
The moderator has left the conference.